We continue our journey in project management teams with next successful story. We will see a presentation of case study about implementation of Kanban with Kanbanize. And I would like to say hello and welcome on our stage to Ivaylo Gueorguiev and Dimitar Panayotov.
Hello. Hello. In this story, I was the agile coach and trainer, the one who asked questions about outcomes, and the one who served the software supervisor and the team.
Yeah, and I was the guy that makes the thing happen, together with my team of dedicated software engineers within the Sensata company.
Okay, so let's start now. Dimitar, what was on your mind when you started the initiative?
Everything was at this point at my mind. I was just newly promoted software engineering supervisor. So at this time, I managed to find a very chaotic situation inside the team. It was hard to distinguish what work types we have, what work classes we have. Work was given through all different means and given by different managers, different project managers. It was received by all kinds of different bytes, and they were not very specified. So to put it mildly, it was chaotic. We were regularly overworked, and priority was mostly managed by escalations and by who was shouting the loudest. Yeah, most of the tasks were overdue, and it was typical strategy for a task to be moved ahead in time after the deadline was reached. So yeah, it was a typical chaotic situation.
It sounds like a complaint, isn't it?
No, it's not complaint. It's I believe it's a realistic representation of the situation without complaining too much about it.
Okay, and that realistic situation is quite important. It's part of static, so-called system thinking approach of system thinking approach in implementation of in introduction to Kanban. And in this phase, it's very important for static to understand the situation in which you are. To understand the sources of dissatisfaction regarding the current delivery and to be able to address them. And after that, in static, what we do is we analyze sources and nature of demand. We think about the capability of the system, and we think about the workflow. How does the workflow work? And at the end, we built a Kanban system in order to serve those dissatisfaction. And Dimitar, you participated twice in static. What was your impression about this?
Well, like you said, at least 2 times I've made static. It was twice at the trainings that you did for us. And my impression was that this is the most important part of doing Kanban. It is the most important part because you involve everybody that is involved within the process. So everybody should be able to say and analyze from their point of view the system, so you can gather more information about it. So I did it twice there, and then again after that we did it with the team. Well, it took us 6 months to do it because we were very short on times for this one. But at the end we managed to make it in, I believe it was 4 sessions with 2 hours each within 5 months period. And we involved everybody that was interested. So the whole software team and the managers that were actually inside. And we can talk about more in the sources dissatisfaction.
Yeah. Before that, I want to say that we delayed the initiative. We delayed starting the initiative because the team was so busy that we were not able to find time to do static at the beginning. Yeah. Actually, these were about 6 months in which we had the budget. We had the senior management commitment. We had the commitment of the team lead, and we were not able to start it because our initial plan was to do it a kind of 1 day or 2 days as a packed service. And at the end, you were so busy that we were not able to find this time. And it was interesting that you actually provided your time for this.
Yes, at this time we had some small meeting of around an hour each week, and we were very pressed to deliver different projects and process work. So at this time I decided that the best practice and best way to actually manage to do it within some small period of time is just to dedicate this meeting for it.
Yeah,
and it was worth it.
Yeah, it worked quite well. It was a kind of innovation. Because we were not able to find this time anywhere else. So, yeah, and talking about static, let's see a picture of it. Can you comment it?
Well, this was the result of one of the parts of static, analyzing the source of dissatisfaction. This was the most important part, or maybe, of static, because it delivered some of the most pressing issues that we have within the team and outside of the team. So it was split on 2 parts. One of them was analyzing the internal, and the other one is analyzing the external source of dissatisfaction. Internal, those are for team members. And some awful truths or some bad truths arose from this process. We managed to see that engineers were not actually satisfied with their job, because of lack of communication, because of multitask and overwork, and bad task descriptions were leading in no QA process within the process. People were not happy that they did not manage to finish their work. And it was very often that you managed to do 95, maybe 90% of the work, and you leave the last 5%, which is not enough. Where, on the other hand, our managers were, of course, not happy that we were always late. We had some unfinished tasks that were being unfinished for more than 6 months, even more than that, and that we were always delayed and unpredictable.
Okay.
So yeah, you were part of this one. What did you think about the process?
Yeah, I was part of static, and here I would like to say that doing static twice for the leader, it was a big advantage for me as an agile coach, because Dimitar participated first in a training together with other specialists, other colleagues, and you learned static. And after that, when we did static together, it was kind of very good leadership, because actually I was facilitating and you was leading actually the process, and that was I think very beneficial in this very stressful situation. So yeah.
Yeah, I believe we have a little bit more pictures about how the process looked in the real world.
Yeah, we have one. Okay, we did static directly in the workshop where the robots, actually, we are producing robotics lines, production lines.
Robotized mechanized lines.
Yeah, robotized mechanized lines, and we did it in the workshop. I remember very well. I still remember this shirt, actually. I still can wear it. It's like a new one, because just after this, the virus came, and I didn't have too many occasions to wear shirts. So we were in the pajamas at home. So
just to note, this was just before the COVID crisis, and you can see the picture. The whole team gathered. Actually, on this gathering, there were people that were outside of the software team for which the Kanban was targeted. But it was a good thing. And the most important thing for us at this point was to involve more people. So the end product, which was the Kanban board, could feel not like the manager board, but can be felt more like the team board. And I believe that we managed to reach this point.
Yeah, exactly. And doing it exactly on the working place, not in our nice rooms, it was a big benefit because you were also able to talk to the other teams and to see how their work is connected to your team. And that was quite beneficial. Another positive thing was that this nice first Kanban board we did, actually, it stayed there, and you started using this board just after the static, yes?
Immediately on the first day after that, the team was so excited to start using some board that I was actually mostly not involved in the production of the board. I was just monitoring how it's done. And yes, we started using it on day one.
Mm-hmm. That's quite advanced board for the. I have done this exercise many times, and this is a quite advanced one that is situated, that is positioned in 4 big whiteboards, vertically mounted on the wall. So I think that this distributed static exercise that was once per week contributed a lot, because you had enough time to think after our first session, to contribute to the next session, and so on. So even if it was a kind of experiment, it was very, very useful for this. So you started this, and I think then you improved the board. Let's talk a bit about it.
At first, the board was just drawn by a marker on the board, and in almost a week later, I believe just the next week, we did it a little bit better with magnetic tape, and better contrast on the board was reached, so it can be a little bit more visible. As much for the board, just to talk for the board, we managed to split it in a couple of areas that were most important for us. So we can have 2 things visible always on the board. One of the most important part of visibility on the board for us was the board rules. So everyone can be familiar with the process that we agreed upon, meaning that if anybody wants to go inside our process, he can just look at it. It's visible. We have there our Kanban maturity model as well, so we can have some continuous improvement ongoing. We have our blocker clusters. We decided to do them immediately on the day one. And the most important part was the board itself, which was split in the typical manner, split on a backlog, work in progress, and down columns. As for the work in progress, backlogs and everything, it was split into work types and work phases, where those work types and phases are defined only for our team. And this is where I have to say something, and this is, do not copy this board in your team. It is the situation in our small software team, and it will not be applicable for every team, especially that the software design in Sensata is a little bit different than software in other companies. So please do not copy exactly. Use it as an inspiration.
Yeah, that was very good. You said it very good. Even if this board is very nice, I do not recommend copying and pasting any artifact from Agile world. It does not work like this. It does not work with templates. The best Kanban system you can create is your system, not a system you can download or a system you can receive as a template from a tool. And so that's very important. Do not copy and paste it. You can take it, you can look at it, but you need your own Kanban system in order to be productive. And here, what I would like to note is that you see that work types you had in this board. Initially they had about 6 work types, and after that they were growing due to the experience we gained. We can further show it. So.
It's also something that's very important, but it was not a problem for us. Changing the board. We are not scared of changing the board, and we do it regularly. You should not be too. Changing the board is something totally normal, especially in a dynamic working space. So yes, this was the initial board. The board, of course, after that was upgraded a couple of times, and we keep upgrading it from time to time. Also, one more thing that we had on the board that was not that important, priorities. We had priorities in there, and we had a very big dedicated space for it. Small note somewhere in the corner of the board.
Nobody likes a lot of priorities, yes?
No, and yes, and I believe that during this time, around this time where we designed the board, the COVID crisis hit.
Yeah.
And we were forced to go in working from home for 3 months at this time, not going into the office at all. So we were forced to move the board into a digital one, which was made within a weekend.
Yeah.
This was a big thanks to Kanbanize. It was very easy to use. It took me really 1 weekend to transfer the board from physical to digital, keeping everything that was important for us on the digital board and even improving it a little bit. As we can see here, this time priorities were very visible, and we locked the priorities so we can have only 3 priorities. One is more important than the second one, more important than the third one, and we don't have a fourth one.
Yeah, that was a very interesting design, because actually those are the cells that are for the priorities on the board, and there is a width limit for them that is exactly 1. You cannot have more than 1 emergency, yeah?
Yes, yes.
In terms of actually, when we are talking in terms of the priorities, is this a task or request, or what do you put here? For the purpose of confidentiality, we cannot show it as a ticket, but what is it?
It is typically a production line, a whole production line that usually takes a lot of focus from us, or it's a whole product of ours.
Okay.
It's not 2 lines, that's the point. It's only 1 currently produced lines, and we have many that are produced at the same time.
And if we speak in the project management language, let's say we have only 1 project that is with a very high priority, 1 project that is a mid priority, and 1 that is just priority. Yeah?
And this makes, when you are grading the importance of a certain task, you can grade it without using a manager. When you have the priorities on top, you just look at the priority and say, oh yes, this is according to the first priority, and I should take it first after that.
Yeah, and that's the replenishment. Actually, what happens is when you finish a task and you have capacity to start a new task, and when you look at the backlog, you look for a request that is that corresponds to priority 1. If there is such a request, you pull it immediately after. We do not need to ask the senior manager, should I start it? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Talking with the senior manager, the talk between the senior manager and myself and the project management, we just decide what to put in the backlog. And then how it's going to be taken from the backlog, it's pretty much determined by the priority set. Also, on the board, we had board rules visible by everyone. And we had our typical classes of work unchanged. The board that you currently see is taken a couple of weeks ago as a screenshot. So it had some improvements inside. Those are the code reviews that we decided that, yes, as a software company, we should do that sometimes. So
how did they come in our case? Do you remember? The code, I mean, the institutionalizing the code reviews, I think.
We at the start, we were doing them chaotically. We were doing them when we needed, and we were not doing them on all of the development work, just on the ones that we decided that we need code reviews. Where at some point we decided that this should be one of our quality assurance steps.
And I think it was during one of the first retrospectives we had.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, that was my question, because Kanban is not only the board. Kanban is also the feedback loops, and one of the most important feedback loops, this is the retrospective. And actually, once this kind of the team started being more productive, they had enough time and they considered the code reviews. That is not a Kanban practice at all. Actually, it's a good engineering practice. They decided to introduce code reviews, and yeah, okay.
The one thing we were lacking, but we kept it on the physical board, was actually the Kanban maturity model. And on this one particular slide, there is the best benefit that we managed to get from Kanban. We got analytics of our work, so we can actually put some performance metrics for our work, so we can measure if we improve or no, if we don't improve. At the end, we improved.
Yeah.
The other one is the maturity model. So we use it only as a guideline. We don't aim at going at 6 level or something like that. We just use it as a best practice, mentioning of other tools and as an evolution model. How do we use it? We just mark, you can see the model behind me. Ivo has it neatly behind him as well. We just mark what we want to do and what we have already done on the board. And this way we ensure continuous improvement.
Yeah, actually, the Kanban maturity model is an organizational model, especially when you go to high maturity. But in our case, we used it on the team level first to see what practices can deliver the outcomes we want to achieve. And if we go back to the Kanban, our first Kanban board, you see here Walker clustering. That is quite advanced practice according to the Kanban maturity model, but it was very useful for this team. And therefore, we didn't wait until we go to maturity level 3 to use it. We just say, okay, we want this would be beneficial for us, and it was implemented from the very beginning. And here I want to say that Kanban maturity model is an organizational model. It actually helps the organization to be more mature. And in our case, using it as on a team level helps us to understand the whole organization and how we can use the practices and how we can deploy the practices of Kanban on a wider base. I think we will talk about this at the end of the presentation.
Yes, bottlenecking should be at the end. And this is something that was as a result from the Kanban. We solved the bottlenecks within the system.
Okay. So if you have to list the 3 most useful practices that helped you to improve the throughput, what they were?
Practices were cadences, where these were also known as meetings in most cases, limiting the whips, the work in progress, and we have the analyzation of blockers, which was also very important for us. So in a way, this led to improving visibility within the team and outside the team, which was improving the communication. And in the end, it was just driving results. So improved communication, meaning that we were spending a lot less time in returning back on done work and uncommunicated problems. We were communicating them on our typical daily cadences. And about the daily cadences, it was very important for us. It was one of the first things that we did is just to make a daily meeting, which were involving all the team members, and project managers also involved, although there were optional members in there. And our department manager was also involved. And just by doing those, we improved communication a lot.
Together with the board.
Together with the board, of course, yes. Because the visibility of the work was very apparent to everybody. And a lot of uneasy questions were asked, and thus driving the improvement.
I remember that you spent 3 months in China during this period. How the visualization and those cadences helped you to be there for a very critical job to do, and also to work with the team in Bulgaria.
It was this year that I spent 3 months in China, and it was not a problem at all for the system. The only thing that changed for us was changing the time of the daily meetings from 4 o'clock to the morning, just so I can attend them as well. But I was not stressed at all that something will get broken, because the system works. Even if I'm not working, and even if I'm not guiding the team knows very well what priorities are, what is the backlog, and how they should spend it. So yes.
Yeah, and that's very well represents one of the Kanban principles, that we manage the work, not the workers. Actually, Kanban helps to the team and to the organization to self-organize around work, and to be, and then the team who that needs to do the job, they decide how to proceed with the work. Yes.
Also, one thing that I forgot to mention was collaboration. Collaboration was not something that we did a lot within the team, and the team was around 10 people this time. Collaboration skyrocketed during the daily meetings because people were sharing their problems, their professional problems in there. And some people were actually just popping out with ideas of solutions. So some tasks, before the Kanban, tasks were processed by one person. After Kanban, tasks were mostly processed by at least two, helping each other to manage work. And yeah, this was something that was very beneficial from the Kanban.
You have mentioned several times classes of services and metrics, and a very common question that I received during the trainings is, okay, you're using throughput, so number of items produced per certain time period. You're using lead time, that means for what time the task is, the feature is ready. And the very common question is, okay, but we have very different tasks. How we can use statistics for them?
Yeah, so this comes from analytics usually. And if it's done on a physical board, we were doing it by hand. In the Kanbanize, it's a lot easier. It's included inside the software. As for different types and classes of work, we decided to have two big types of work. One of them was support, and the other one was development. Those types of work were including other subtypes of work inside. But the idea was that in the development, we were doing new product development, or we were generating new products or projects or software for the company. Where at the support, we were supporting already done software. Support was more chaotic. We could not know how much time it's going to take for us to support a certain line. So we decided to just separate it from the development work, which was usually passing through very strict phases. As for our classes of services, we aimed at the typical four. We had our standard class of work, which was everything. Everything was starting standard usually. If we don't know, if it's not that important, it should not be expedited or fixed date. It starts as a standard. This means that we will process it normally without any much hurry about it. Now, if a certain standard task is taking a lot of time, it tends to get expedited or gets a fixed date set. So a standard can become fixed date or an expedite. Our two other classes of work that we used, expedite means even if you put a deadline, we have to do it in an ASAP mode. So we do it immediately. It doesn't matter how many cards you have at the board at that point. Expedited tasks should be made immediately. Fixed dates, those are the most loved ones by our project management because they have a fixed date, meaning that it is expected when the task is going to be done. And it's something that our company is very much pressing us always to have a fixed date on our task. And we also have intangible, which we almost never managed to actually take. Those are low priority tasks that are usually not included within our priorities, and we can do them wherever we find time for them. So we almost never find time for them.
Yeah.
But even if we have this analytics that the tangible tasks are almost never taken, this is still a good analysis to have.
And here, the benefit of this system that you built is that you can have you can have statistics for standard tasks that are in the development in a certain work type, and in that case, you can have meaningful statistics for those tasks. that is quite have quite different behavior than the expedite task. In the standard task, normally, if you delay them, you pay some cost, but it would be proportional to the time. In the expedite tasks, how does it work?
Usually it is exponentially costs more. So if you delay it more, it will cost much more for the company. That from there it comes the hurry with the ASAP mode of work for expedite tasks.
Okay, and let's see how the statistics works in this case. Okay,
there is a disclaimer that I have to make. We were not graded within the company based on the Kanban board. It was an initiative that was inside our small team. So we did not have any incentive to cheat on it. Meaning every task we tend to try to process every task without trying to make a lower cycle time on it or trying to cheat the system. So the statistic was mostly clean. As for the graphics that you are seeing, on the bottom of it, this blue line was the team's ability to process work, the amount of work it can process or capacity.
Measured through full-time employees.
This was measured with how many people were they working and how much vacations were we having, or if we had furlough during this time, or we were forced to work less during this month. The capacity falls. So the idea was just to have some slight idea if the top part of the graphic was actually meaningful. So yes, it was. At the end, visibility was very, very improved. Communication was very much so improved, and work was data-driven at this point. Moment.
What we see here on the chart is actually that the capacity of the team decreases during the time, with the only exception here. And you can imagine that hiring one person and another person leaving, it's improved, or it's a kind of stress to the team. So we have to have it also as into account when we see the chart. And what you see here is the throughput, or how many work items were produced for a certain time period. And what we can see here is that it was almost tripled at some point of time, and then we were they were doubled at the end of the period. So how can you explain this very big increase in the productivity?
It was mostly because we focused on the things that were hurting most. So lack of visibility and lack of technical specifications, strict technical specifications for our work. So this is something that we currently request on every task or every work that we accept, is for it to be very specified. We were not doing that before. Also, we were not very focused. We tend to multitask, and multitasking is just a productivity killer. And we saw that. After we started with the WIP limit, so work in progress limit of 3 tasks per person. Now, with time, we saw that 3 is too much. We actually tend to be way more productive with only 2 tasks. And I believe that if we have 1, we will be even more productive. But unfortunately, business requires for us to be working on more than 1 task at a time.
Yeah, but two tasks in parallel is a dream for some IT specialists in some environment. So it's very well. So let's see how your tasks were structured. And I see those tasks are quite small. What do you represent with those checks?
We did not have a strict rule about this one. So it is free how every engineer uses those ticks, or how I set up as a manager set up those ticks for somebody. So we use them in 2 ways. Otherwise, either as a checklist for a certain work. So this can be very long. Now you can see task with 15 check marks. And the other one is if I want to guide somebody from my team, especially more inexperienced people, of how they should process certain work, I can just give them some tips inside those
Yeah.
checkmarks.
So if you do not check this one, the machine would not work properly.
Yes, and also I can ask for progress of a certain text, or at least I can easily see the progress.
The
of
whole
a
team
certain
can
task.
see it, yeah.
And the whole team can see it. Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to explain those checkboxes, and it's true that nowadays in your board they are quite longer than this. I think we took those because they can fit on the slide. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So you increase the productivity, but can you speak more about what were the outcomes on organizational level, and how this system can improve the overall value-added chain?
It is very beneficial on a team level, but unfortunately, we are bottlenecked by other teams that we are cross-connected to. So it is very important for us to actually have this improvement in our whole company, or at least with the connected teams to us. The whole idea is to have some better defined lead times, cycle times, metrics and all. So throughput, flow efficiency, WIP limits, and the whole idea is to have better visibility of the process that we currently lack. So
between the teams and between the organizational units, yeah.
Between the organizational units that are working in collaboration. So yeah, the idea is that all the project managers, and there are a lot in the company, all project managers and managers can see the work, visibly see the work, so they can make some better decision of how it should be processed and what is important.
And do you think the whole organization, do you think that the whole organization can increase the throughput twice or 3 times?
It's a little bit optimistic for me to say 2 or 3 times, but 50%, yes. I believe that with doing the same thing for the whole companies probably will increase productivity with around 50%.
And here we are talking about WIP limits, maybe WIP limits on project level, initiatives level. We are talking about all the beneficial data you can take, and then the feedback loops on organizational level that can help the organization actually to advance in this maturity model, to be more mature. Yeah. Okay. So there is a chart on this slide about this. We are doing some simulations on our side. How does it work? And normally in Kanbanize, it works in this way. You have a PMO, or you have a project portfolio, and then you have the teams that are linked to this project portfolio, and everything is visible, everything is moving, and you can see it. Right away. Okay. So I think we can. Let me see if I have a video about this. I do not see it on this slide, but
Next one.
yeah, I think.
Next one.
Okay, next one. So it would work like this. This is actually a real simulation. People are staying behind each board. So these are 3 teams, and this is the project management board or PMO board. You can see here the projects. Also, what you can see is are the workflows on a high level, and how those workflows are going through the teams. And at the end, you have all the nice statistics on a higher level, on a level of the organization, not on the level of the teams. So this was just a demo, but actually we are doing those simulations, and they help us a lot to see all these practices and to be able to play 50 days or 90 days in 4 hours. So everybody can see how it can support the initiative, how it can support the organization.
And it is more or less the idea that we think that it's going to be best for the company in this paradigm.
First to try to simulate it, and then if it works, you can take it. And I think you're using a similar idea in your engineering process.
Yes.
Okay. It's now time for questions. We are very happy to answer your questions.
If we can.
At least try. Do you have any questions?
Of course. We have questions from the audience. So let's start. You mentioned that you set a limit for emergency tasks. Do you set other limits for other links and tasks?
So the typical limit is 3 tasks. Doesn't matter what they are. Well, but if we have expedited tasks, this WIP limit can be overlooked. So if you have an expedite task, if you have 2 expedite tasks, this is a very bad situation. But if you usually we have only 1 per person. So if we have such task, we tend to block all the other tasks that are not important during this time. So we know that we are working in a rushed manner.
And actually, what I have seen, you know how much time does it cost you? Because after that you can analyze blockers and you can see what was the block time and how many tasks were blocked. Yeah.
And we can analyze also how much time it takes for us to resolve an expedite task. And usually we know that it is around a couple of days.
Okay. And here I want to just to clarify that the WIP limit on emergency or on the high priority is not based on task or people. It is a project actually. That only one project could be with the highest priority.
It can be even smaller tasks. In our situation, sometimes incidents and accidents happen. Usually after that, immediately after that, we get an expedite task. And working with the live production, it happens.
Yeah, it's not typical software company. Actually, there are machines behind your software.
Yeah, and when a production line stops, the task gets expedited quite fast.
Okay.
Thank you. We heard a lot of good things about retrospectives. Is there a bad things?
If you mean retrospective meetings, I don't think so.
Not about the retrospectives by themselves, but during the meetings we have identified a lot of impediments and so on that need to be resolved. So I also think that retrospective is only good. If you have an opportunity to do only one cadence, I would say it's retrospective. Dimitar maybe would say it's daily.
Daily, definitely. But retrospective, most definitely is the second most important for us.
Yeah.
And it's something that we do bi-weekly. And it is something that is valued by the team because it can be used for productive whining, complaining.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which one were more efficient, to have physical board or to have digital board?
Both of them has their good and bad things. I would say as a software engineer that I would prefer the digital one. It's much easier, especially during these times where we have to be homebound. Right now, I would totally suggest you use digital boards for the next couple of years because it's going to be more and more working from home.
Yeah, here I want to point out that digital boards are, of course, they have big benefits, but what was the benefit of the physical board we had was that it was positioned in a place where many teams were hosted. And the good thing was that at that time, that was very short for us, unfortunately, we were able to talk to other teams or to the project managers in front of those whiteboards. And I think the collaboration between the teams was somehow, not the collaboration, but the communication between the teams was some more interesting, let's say.
Yes.
Not more efficient or effective, but more interesting because you see the ticket, you talk about it, and you can even change it. You can write directly. That is not quite possible in the digital environment because you need to invite all those guys to your meeting. That would not happen.
Yes, but inviting them to the meeting is easier compared to the physical board. So
Okay.
in a way, we just interchange visibility. We reduce the visibility within the team because less people were able to see it because it was digital. but it was easier to share with outside teams because we could just invite them on the digital board.
And you can see it in China.
Yes.
That was quite important. Yeah, with the physical board, you could have problems when you were
Also,
in China.
physical board is a lot cheaper, but it takes a lot more time to do the statistic by hand.
Yeah.
So it has its positives and negatives.
Yeah. In some other cases in which I guided teams on a physical board, I think what was really missing were the metric, because you cannot record everything.
Mm-hmm.
And here everything is recorded, even if you don't want.
Also, you're also more prone to mistakes, human mistakes on the physical board. On the digital board, you cannot cheat. Every time you touch something, it is logged. Every time you want to do any analytics, you cannot just manipulate it. It will do it for you.
Yeah, it's, could it be frightening?
A little bit, yes.
Yeah, and the good thing here, what I saw when I worked with Dimitar, was that there was no pressure about the metrics. The metrics were as they were. You see that during the time they were high and low, and nobody was asking, "Come on, last month you did so much, so many, and now you're doing less." So the metrics are very good in order to improve your performance. They are not so good to manage people, and they are good to manage the process.
Yes, it's something that we always tend to avoid, managing people based on the analytics, because they can still be made only for a single person, but it's just unfair and it's not right. It's not correct to do it like this way. It is important to increase the team's productivity, not the person's productivity. Usually the team will drive the person to increase his productivity by itself.
A really difficult decision to take. Is it better to gather the team around the physical board, or to take all things that the digital board give you, as statistic and etc.? But every company should decide based on their needs. And last question from the studio is more technically related. Could you give more information on what the work types can be used for?
Can you name your work types in the development? They were some kind functionally oriented. I cannot name them, sorry.
I can, yes, because I'm thinking if it's a company information. No, it's not. We have open days, so it should not be a problem. And now you can use it on different kinds. For I can give you hours. In development, we have usually the development types that we use. So POC development, this is called for POC programming. HMI development is a separate, robotics is a separate type of work, simulations is also a separate type of work. Those are quite different because they tend to target different engineering specialities. So not everybody can do simulations, not everybody can do HMI and POC programming within the team. This is why they were split. We have a separate type for upgrades only, where we just put things that we know are going to take less time for development than the whole machine. Of course, the whole machine takes a couple of months, where an upgrade can take a couple of weeks. So we have a separate type for it. We can analyze it separately.
And what was important, I want to go back to your actual board. What was important is that for each type, you can have statistics, so you can know how much time it would take in the 95% of the cases to do the development of PSL or some other things. You can extract all these statistics directly from the software. Another thing, look here. What is it?
Yeah, we did not cover this one because it was lacking on the physical board. It's still almost better. We still try with it, but we put initiatives inside. So initiative is a collection of many tasks that we can track with a percentage. And we can have a whole line of machine will include in itself a lot of simple tasks that will take some time, but it will include 30 or 40 tasks. And on a company level, it is not that important for our higher management to know a simple task how much time is going to take. They want to know the whole project. So this is a try from our side to have some better understanding of how much time or what is our progression percentage on a certain initiative.
You said that you are experimenting with it. Is it useful for you?
For me, especially for me, yes, because I'm the middle ground between the team and the management. So I get asked the hard questions about how much time is it going to take. And gathering the task within a certain specific initiative is way easier for me. Also, when designing and when planning the work, it is easier for me to just make one and then link all the small tasks to it. So I can have some rough idea how many tasks we need to make more. When designing...
Sorry, because we are ending with the time. Thank you very much for your contribution. I would like to ask attendees to check the chat where we have special offer from our sponsor Kanbanize, 3 months free trial of the product. So if you're interested, check the chat and take the opportunity to download and test it. Thank you very much for your presentation. It was really interesting discussion on one very powerful framework and software. So it was pleasure for us to have you here on the stage. Thank you on behalf of PMI Bulgarian chapter, and see you next time.
Thank you for organizing so nice event. It's very interesting, and we are following the other speakers. We are very interested in the all teams you cover. Okay.
Thanks for the invitation, and it was a very nice summit so far.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.